Welcome. Each year I put out a calendar of the major astronomy events in the coming year, and 2021 seems to be holding quite a few interesting events. So let's get right to it. Let's first start with looking at the 11 major meteor showers that we have each year, and these are they. Unfortunately, a lot of these this year are going to be interfered with by the moon, and I've color-coded the showers. 3 of them are sort of favorable: the Perseids, the Draconids, and the Taurids. Of those, only the Perseids has got a fairly high rate of meteors, so that's probably your best bet for the year. I've given the Geminids a yellow rating because although the moon will interfere somewhat, there is a very high rate of meteors usually, and so you'll probably get some good events at least. All the rest probably I wouldn't bother with if I were you. We have the 4 usual eclipses this year: 2 lunar and 2 solar. It starts on the 26th of May with a total lunar eclipse. Then there's an annular solar eclipse on the 10th of June, a partial lunar eclipse on the 18th and 19th of November, and a total solar eclipse on the 4th of December. So let's take a look at these individually. We'll start by looking at the total lunar eclipse on the 26th of May. This is a map showing the areas that will be seeing the event. The dark area will be no eclipse visible. The light areas are where the eclipse is visible entirely. The shaded areas is somewhere in between. So, for example, you can see that most of North America is going to see the eclipse starting as the moon sets. So that's rather disappointing. If you're on Hawaii, you'll get a lovely view of it, and also down in Antarctica. Eastern Australia will as well. East Asia, like North and South America, will get to see part of the eclipse, but this time as the moon rises. It's not going to be a very long total eclipse, as you can see from the picture that's inset in the middle here. The totality phase is only just in the Earth's main shadow, and so it won't be there for very long. We'll turn next to the annular solar eclipse on the 10th of June. An annular eclipse occurs when the diameter of the moon is significantly less than the diameter of the sun. So at the maximum phase, there's a ring of the solar disk behind the body of the moon. This event is not going to be very well placed. Most of the annular eclipse will occur in northeastern Canada, Greenland, and eastern Siberia. The rest of Canada and some parts of the United States and Asia and bits of Europe will get partial eclipses. So it's not going to be a very exciting event unless you're willing to get very cold and go up into the Arctic and watch it. The third event is a partial lunar eclipse, and the convention is the same as before. The dark areas here will not see any of the eclipse. The light areas will see the whole of the eclipse, and the grey areas will see the first part or the last part depending on where you are. Once again, this is most favourable for the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Much of the United States will see the full eclipse. South America, Europe and Asia will see the beginning or the end of the eclipse near moon set or moon rise, depending on where you are. As a partial eclipse goes, it's actually quite a complete one. As you can see, the moon brushes the umbra of the Earth's shadow and will look very much like a total lunar eclipse, but nonetheless, it's technically a partial eclipse. Our last eclipse for this year occurs on the 4th of December. Unlike the first one, this one is mainly in the Antarctic. So once again, you're going to have to get very cold in order to be able to see this particular eclipse. And the parts of the world that will see it as tips of South Africa, tip of South America, and the southern tip of Australia. So again, we've been rather cheated, I think, this time around with the locations of our solar eclipses. The 2 inner planets are only visible when they're a fair long distance away from the sun, and that's called the eastern and western elongation, or morning and evening stars. These are the dates in the coming year when Mercury and Venus will be in that situation. Mercury will be visible as a morning or an evening star 6 times throughout the year, and Venus twice. It's a good opportunity to take advantage of seeing Mercury when you look for some of the conjunctions I'm about to talk about at the moment, because Mercury is particularly difficult to see. Venus is no problem, it's the brightest planet in the sky. Well, one of the best times to see planets is when they're either at opposition or when they're near to another bright planet, and that's called a conjunction. We have a Saturn and Mercury conjunction on the 9th of January, and the Jupiter and Mercury conjunction on the 11th of January. So all three of them are going to be fairly close together. Mars and Uranus will be at conjunction on the 21st of January. Now, Uranus is a difficult one to find, so you easily find Mars, and it's only going to be about 1.75 degrees away from Mars. So, and by the way, the way to gather that, the Moon is about half a degree across, so it'd be just over 3 moon diameters away from Mars to the south. Jupiter and Mercury conjunction on the 5th of March. This is a really good time to see Mercury. Venus and Mercury conjunction on the 29th of March. Again, they're going to be very close together, so it'll be a good opportunity to see them. Saturn will be in opposition. That means it'll be its closest point to the Earth for this particular year on the 2nd of August. Mercury and Mars conjunction. Again, a good opportunity to find Mercury on the 19th of August, and they'll be very, very close together. Jupiter in opposition. Closest approach to the Earth, in other words, on the 20th of August, so you just look south at midnight. Neptune in opposition on the 14th of September, but you're definitely going to need a telescope for that. Uranus in opposition on the 5th of November, looking south at midnight, but again you're going to need a telescope for that. And then you have Venus and Mercury in conjunction on the 29th of December, but that's going to be 4.25 degrees apart. We have two other lunar events apart from the eclipses, and that's two supermoons, one on the 27th of April and one on the 26th of May. A supermoon is when the moon is particularly close to us and looks much larger than it normally does. Last but not least, what's the sun going to be doing in 2021? Now, there's not a set schedule for this, so it's very unpredictable, but solar minimum was in December of 2019, and activity has been building throughout 2020 as solar cycle 25 asserts itself. The average sunspot number, radio disturbances, etc. will increase throughout this coming year. We can expect more flares. We've already had 2 M flares in 2020. I expect a lot more in 2021, and possibly some X flares as well. We can also expect more aurora, because as flares increase, so generally do coronal mass ejections, and they cause geomagnetic storms and improve auroral displays. So it should be quite an exciting year for the sun. I hope you have great stargazing in 2021 and remain safe and well for the year. Until next time, goodbye.